Are you ready for the NFL season, my friend? I am pumped. I am excited. Those of you who are listening, thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you can, throw up the subscribe, like this video. We'll have videos like this every week, basically twice a week. We'll do our early in the week preview. We'll give you all of our thoughts, usually on Wednesday night. That's when Erik and I are recording right now. And then we'll have our show on Sunday morning. And what's nice, Erik, is that we'll have a lot of different information by that time. Usually the difference between Wednesday night, what we know about the games, and then Sunday morning, we'll know last minute players that are in or that are out. There will be line changes that happen quite a bit over those 3 days. So I like the way that we separate the shows between like Wednesday night and then again Sunday morning, because sometimes you have a different opinion that you do on Wednesday and the line or the number moves and it'll be different on Sunday.
Yeah, stuff can move. Injuries. I mean, like the big one right now is CD Lamb's on the exempt list.
Yeah.
Yahoo and everything is listing him as not playing. So that's a little funky. I'm actually getting ready to do a fantasy football draft as we kind of speak. But
Chase still hasn't signed his deal, which a lot of people are kind of waiting on. That could be one of those last minute things that impacts a lot of people in fantasy drafts. I took a swing in a few of them and just picked him early because I felt like he's dropping just because of this right now.
Yeah.
And so if he's there for week 1 or even week 2, you're still going to get great value. But if there's something that holds off for a few weeks, then, obviously it'll impact week by week by week. Awesome, man. So if you have not joined us before, we will go through every game. We won't have a bet for every game, but we'll give you leans. We'll give you information. We'll set you all up. And then again, on Sunday, we'll go through a lot of this other stuff. If you want to make sure to follow Erik at Easthoff21 all over the place. Erik does a ton of other streams throughout the week, stuff for college football, stuff for pros, other different guests reacting to the previous week. A lot of times Erik will have little stuff to try to give you numbers before they move. So make sure you're following along with Erik right now all throughout the NFL and college season. You will get a ton of great information from this guy. Let's do it, my friend. We have Thursday and Friday night games this week. We have the Thursday night kickoff with 2 really good AFC teams. These are probably 2 of the 5 teams in the league that most people think are the best football teams. You have the Ravens and the Chiefs. We're looking at the lines right now at Bet Online. Chiefs are a 3-point favorite in this game, over under around 47.5. So the Ravens recently, just a couple things to mention because it's sad, but it's something that you have to talk about because through the years when you and I have discussed sports and teams, you never really know how something emotional is going to impact players, Erik. And I think you said almost this exactly. Sometimes you'll have a team have a big loss where someone in their organization passes away, and it really will impact them positively. Everybody kind of rallies around it. And then you'll have the other situation where sometimes the emotion is just a little too much, and it actually will impact them negatively. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Baltimore here because they recently lost their longtime offensive line coach, Joe D'Alessandris, and they're really in mourning. They have also 3 new starting offensive linemen. So when you think about that being one of their weak spots, and then on top of that, losing this guy that was beloved in the organization, that's just something that's going to be really tough for them to deal with. But positives, they are pretty healthy now heading in. Linderbaum has been practicing, and, they're going to add Derrick Henry to that always good running attack. You wonder how much he has left. Andrews back in the mix now after only playing 10 games last year. And now they will have their former linebackers coach become the defensive coordinator. But that's a really tough loss for their organization when you have someone like that they really liked. And they all talked very highly about Coach Joe D.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. You never know how, when something negative happens, how you're gonna react to it. You just don't know what's going to happen or anything. And it's sad that happened. And hopefully, they can, get over and grieve how they need to grieve. In terms of the game, I took the Ravens. I got it at 3. When we just kind of look at it, Mahomes 48% ATS. Jackson in his career is an insane 12-1 against the number. Harbaugh 60% against the number as a dog. Just a couple things, we need to look at. Revenge spot, obviously. This is something I love betting on. There is revenge spots in the NFL when you can kind of get that team that got the team that knocked them out last year. Big matchup is Chiefs against the Ravens rushing game. Disappointing game plan from the Ravens during the playoffs.
They just did not even lean on the run at all.
Now they're missing some offensive linemen. How is that going to look? I think another key component is no Snead in the back four. How is that defense going to look for the Chiefs with no Snead in the back four?
And then kind of to counter that, is Baltimore the team right away that can make Kansas City hurt for that, right? Is Baltimore going to attack you down the field enough? Because if you had a really potent passing attack, that may hurt more. It may even be more than just in the passing game, because Snead was one of those leaders on the field, right? Just kind of keeping everyone in the right spot, making sure everybody was really like taking care of their business. So yeah, it feels
and we don't know. I mean, like, it seems to me like there gets a certain time in a football player's life where they're not a football player, they're a little bit more of a celebrity right now.
Yep.
Celebrity. Kind of feel like they would that way with Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and you don't know, like, has he been able, because he's still a very good player, but traveling all over the place, going to a lot of shows, going to a lot of events, things that you probably weren't doing before.
Yeah.
That does weigh on you. That takes away from time you may be looking at film, time you may be doing other things, and just you get a little more tired. You have a little less bounce in your step. I think you were kind of hitting on it. Like, the Ravens have been a really good regular season team. The Chiefs, even last year, slow start. What we find with their defense, like, Spags is very good. Once he kind of figures out his group, he's a guy that gets better as the season goes on, and then he's able to make adjustments. Same thing with in-game, but I think once he gets a better feel for who his guys are, and then in a week one like this where you have intangibles, I wouldn't be shocked to see Lamar real excited. I feel like this game just matters more to the Ravens, right, than it does to the Chiefs. For them, they need to prove to themselves they can beat this team, and they can feel like, okay, going into the playoffs, we're not going to be scared of beating them. So I don't know. At 3 or below, I definitely could not be on the Kansas City side. Like, at this number of 3, I think I could only be on Baltimore. If it bumped up, for sure, I don't think it would go up. It was kind of more in like the 2.5 to 3-ish range. So you're on the 3 side. Anything else?
It's not going to go higher than 3. And as soon as it goes down 2.5, people hit it with KC.
Yep.
Look at it live. That's pretty much my only thing in this game.
That's Thursday night. That's our standalone game there. Let's move to Friday night. Eric, we have the Packers and the Eagles. Right now, this number is moving. It was in the 3 range. Now it's down to Eagles -2. So remember, while you're looking at this game, if you're not completely sure, this is a game in Brazil. So while it looks like it's an Eagles home game, it's not really a home game for them. It's a little strange to hear the teams talk about how they've been told by their organizations, don't even go outside. There's a lot of crime all over the place. So it's kind of fascinating that they're having a game in Brazil right now. But we'll have the Eagles and the Packers, who had years last year towards the end of the season that were completely opposite. You had this Packers team who had a kind of slowish start to the year. Middle of the season, they were really struggling. And then the last part of the season, they were excellent. Love improved a lot. They kind of became the darling of the league. And they've been one of the real buzzy teams coming into this year, Eric. Then the Eagles, they went the opposite way. They won all of their games early. They were getting all the bounces. And then things fell off a cliff for them, especially defensively. They couldn't get any stops. But they make some improvements. They bring in Fangio. They bring in Kellen Moore. I think both of their coordinators this year are just better coordinators, better fits than they were last year, more experienced at that spot. The secondary was bad, so they draft a couple cornerbacks. They bring in Gardner Johnson. They add Barkley to join them, so their backfield along with him and Hurts will be good. I feel like this number is just giving the Packers maybe a little bit too much credit right now on basically a neutral site. You're telling me that they're kind of on an even playing field with the Eagles. I don't know if they're quite there yet. I feel, and you talked about this in the preview, I feel like 2 of the teams this year that early on I might be fading on their lines are the Packers and the Texans, just because everyone already wants to put them into the conference championship as these teams that are already there. I'm not sure if they're there yet. What do you think about Packers Eagles?
Well, first of all, I'm out on the Packers for the season as well. In terms of this game,
75% of the public bets were on Green Bay plus the 3. And that's why this number moved.
So I look at it like this, okay? This game is in Brazil. We have no idea what this field's going to look like. You hit it. Crime is insane. I'm hearing players don't even want to go. I hear players are saying they want to get the game moved back to the U.S. This is just a complete money grab for the NFL. Let's not mix it up. With that being said, I don't understand how you can do anything in this game. Maybe like throw in a touchdown, like a touchdown prop if you see it. But in terms of betting aside a total, there's nothing you can do. I mean, some interesting trends. First 2 weeks of the season, teams getting 2.5 or less, 55% against the number. But the last 7 years, that's up to 62%. LaFleur is a dog, 20-9, 65%. Without Rodgers, because that's what a lot of people go to is like, what is he like without Rodgers? 62%. So, I mean, the trends kind of say to take the Packers. I think this Eagles offense with more stretching the field with the outside is going to open up stuff a lot. Maybe some A.J. Brown player prop totals. That's what I would look here. But in terms of side or total, I want nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Packers at under the 3 just because I think they're so much safer. And I do think that with the points you're making, I think that leads me even more to the Eagles. Just weird field, don't know what's going to happen. Let's just run the ball, right? Let's be a team that we know we can just run the ball. We have a running quarterback here. We can hand it to Barkley. We can lean on our offensive line. We have options, different ways that we can beat you right now. I think for Green Bay, you sort of feel like you're going to need big games from Love and throwing the ball, and you were kind of getting to it. We don't know what the setting is going to look like or feel like down there. So, I just think that these two teams early on are getting kind of that opposite buzz. I feel like Philly's a little better than the narrative is, and Green Bay, just there's too much money coming through on them right now. So I'm going to roll Philly here. We'll mention it at the end. We'll see if we can do like we did last year, if we can come together on 5 games that we agree on. So if anyone out there is playing or has some best curious for some best bets, or maybe playing the circa millions contest, those are our 2 games this week that are not on Sunday. Anything else you want to hit on there before we move to the Sunday slate, Eric?
No.
Let's go Dolphins, Jags. Dolphins are a 3.5-point favorite against the Jags here. Over under in this game is 49. You have the Jags with a new defensive staff. Intense. They add Armstead, Savage. I mean, this team was 8-3 last year, and then they went 1-5 over their last 6. They had a stretch of games where they were 15-5 in 20 games from the end of 2022 to the beginning of 2023. And then Lawrence got really hurt, and he tried to play through it. He had 3 or 4 different injuries. They were 1-6 during that stretch. And I'll give him, I'll be a little harder on him too. Even before some of the injuries, he wasn't playing as well as he could have, or as he should. He needs to, for this team to take that next step and to just continue to be like a 9 or 10 win team, which they want to do. That's what you need to be, or that's what you should be when you have a franchise quarterback that people talk about like Trevor Lawrence. He needs to be in that conversation, and he has to do it himself. So I like the pieces they added, Eric, offensively. I just think they fit a lot more. And they're going to play a Dolphins team now who had a lot of turnover on the defense. A new defensive coordinator. They lost some of their real key defensive pieces. The offensive line is not great, and they have some new pieces there with Hunt and Williams losing to injuries. As soon as this thing got over 3, I jumped in on the Jacksonville side. I just think this is too much, more than a field goal. And starting out the season, I like this Jags team. This is another team that I think is a little underrated nationally. I think the Dolphins have been a little overrated nationally the last couple of years because McDaniels is a good offensive coach, and they score points, and they're sexy there with Tua and Hill. But I think at over a field goal, I like the Jags in here, and I'm even going to sprinkle a little money line on the Jags straight up. Talk to us about Jacksonville Dolphins.
I want to take the Jags. Fins downgrade at the defensive line with the injuries, downgrade at the O-line, downgrade in defensive coordinator. Hill and Waddle are not 100%, but the issue is the DBs with the Jags. The Jags are very weak.
Yep.
Are they going to be able to defend them. Allen's been great, but Walker, who they took over Hutchinson, hasn't really took that step. And I know the Dolphins' offensive line is down. Look, I wanted to get there, but Jags' defensive line, can the Jags create pressure? Jags DB is. Peterson historically isn't that good as a dog. I don't know. I just kind of backed away.
This could be a fun DFS game. Because what you're pointing out defensively. Like, I think both of these teams should be able to score on each other. And for Jacksonville, the over-under in here is, 47.5? So, like, I think the number for Jacksonville, or it's up to 49 now, the number for them, they need to circle is around 24. Like, that's got to be like 24, 25 points. Can we hit that number? And if we can hit that, we should be pretty confident that we can win. They need to score in this game, and we need to see their DBs be able to just show some resistance, I think, to those really good Dolphin wide receivers.
There could be some weather issues too. That's
important. Yeah. I like that if it from like a humidity and warmth standpoint, like they get that weird stuff. Jacksonville will be used to that with Miami too, right? Because at this point of the year when it's still kind of hot, some of those teams that are from the Northeast or the colder spots, they go down to Miami right now when it's still a little bit warm sometimes, and they could be tired very early on in the season. Anything else to hit on here, Eric? Jags, Dolphins?
No.
Okay, let's get to the Steelers at the Falcons. That's where we move next. Falcons are a 3-point favorite. Steelers 3-point dog. They head on the road. Over under in this game 42. Kind of feels like one of those games where you have the Falcons with a new quarterback who probably is going to be a little bit rusty, probably going to be a little bit off, coming off the injury, not a whole lot of reps recently. And you have a Pittsburgh team that same sort of thing. You have a new quarterback situation, hasn't felt all that great. I could see both of these teams sort of have a tough time scoring on each other. That's why the total is low. For the Falcons, one of their weaknesses was the defensive front, putting pressure on the quarterback. They were able to make a trade for Judon, so that will really help. We just don't know how good of a coach Morris is. This will be his second run. He was the Rams defensive coordinator the last few years. Their offensive coordinator, Zach Robinson, he's never called plays. And this is something that you have really opened my eyes to in the last few years. When you have new guys in there that haven't done something, you just kind of have to see them do it for the first time until you can automatically assume and pencil them in as a great play caller. Like, we don't know this guy's just going to be Sean McVay right away. And I don't know what to expect from Cousins coming off of an Achilles tear last year. It's a lot to throw at this team. The number feels kind of right to me, though. Like this, like I'm not laying it with Atlanta. I would be more likely to get to Pittsburgh, but I would love Pittsburgh at the hook at the +3.5. I'm probably going to stay away from this one at Atlanta -3. Set us up a little for this one.
I took the Steelers +3. Look, Tomlin
feels like the only right side of here.
Tomlin's a dog, 64.8% ATS, is a road dog, 60.9%. A dog with extended rest, 76.5%. And look, for as much crap as Wilson has gotten the last couple of years, he's been great his career as a dog, 64.8% ATS, as a road dog, 61. You mentioned Robinson, he's OC, he's never called plays before. One thing I always do is look to fade those guys their first game. Cousins' last game was 10 months ago. He's 36, coming back from a major injury. And it's an injury no quarterback has never been the same from after they return from. With an offensive line that I have some concerns about on the left side, they're starting a rookie left guard, and Matthews was PFF graded 32nd left tackle. Last season, he was 54th in run blocking. Why is run blocking so big in this game? Cousins' first game back from the Achilles, you would think the Falcons would lean on the run game more. And when Cam Hayward was in the lineup for the Steelers, they allowed 112.5 yards rushing per game. When he was out, that bumped all the way up to 129 yards. When we take out the Colts and the 49ers that have elite offensive lines, that number dips all the way down to 76.7 yards per game. So he's huge. If he's there and Matthews can't do anything, they're going to wreak havoc in the backfield. If the Falcons get behind the sticks early, is Matthews going to be able to protect Because, I mean, common sense says you get behind the sticks, it's a passing down. You're going to line Watt over Matthews and let him get to the 36-year-old quarterback coming off of a major injury. Historically, Cousins has been bad against the number week one, only 33% ATS. I'm not a big fan of Morris as a coach. Questions about the OC. Tomlin's been a cash cow as a dog, and this is just what he does. He just wins these games no one expects.
You get the Arthur Smith revenge game, too.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take the Steelers here plus the points.
Yeah, I don't think you could at this number or at like 3.5 or anything like that. I could not be on Atlanta, and I think Pittsburgh's the side. I love the hook. I just another team I feel like coming into the season's a bit overvalued, and a team that we're just assuming is going to be better than we think until we see them. It's Atlanta, Minnesota at the Giants. So the Giants are a slight dog here, and just at first glance, I don't know how good the Giants are going to be this year, but I don't know if Sam Darnold should be laying points on the road against anyone. Sammy Darnold, I love as a USC Trojan fan. He saw some ghosts a couple years back on Monday Night Football. Poor guy will never be able to live that one down. And when you think about the Giants, their strength, Erik, is their defensive line. That's where they actually could be really good. So just from a matchup standpoint, Lawrence, Thibodeau back, adding Burns from Carolina, this defensive front could be much improved. That could be the real key matchup in this game. Could Minnesota's offense move the ball, and will they be able to operate offensively? Aaron Jones, maybe someone they can lean on in here. I think this is actually a nice spot for the Giants as a slight home dog. I would take the little bit of the extra on the plus money on the Giants. It's just one of those things to start. Until I see more, I don't feel like the Vikings should be favored really by anyone, favored against anyone on the road right now at this point of the season. So I'm going to play the Giants at home. I think I could absolutely see Daniel Jones using his legs, leaning on Neighbors. I think they'll probably try to get a big play into him early on. They did that in the preseason where they were trying to get a big shot to him early, like to try to get the crowd into the game. I could see them trying to do that, like take any advantage they can. I think the Giants come out of week 1-0, Erik. Vikings, Giants.
I did it. This popped to 2, and I got it at +2. Darnold, 40% against the number in his career, 29% as a favorite against the number. On the road, he's 32%. The big matchup for me is the Giants defensive line against the Vikings interior offensive line. Vikings are very good at the tackle, but their interior leaves a lot to be desired. The Giants have one of the sneaky better defensive lines in the league. And look, for as much shit as Brian DeBull has gotten in the last couple of years, he is 18-9-1 as a dog against the spread.
And so 2 years ago,
and overall 21-12-1. You know, he covers, and when you look at his quarterbacks, Taylor, Tommy Cutlets, Jones, Webb, it's not like he has these like stellar quarterbacks. I think,
and no weapons. They've had this is by far the best, at least playmaker they've had with an upside in Neighbors. They had Barkley and no other real receivers over the last few years. And 2 years ago was like the ceiling for that team. Last year, they weren't that bad. Everything went wrong early. They had a bad matchup against Dallas, who just could kind of beat up on them. Jones got hurt. A couple of their offensive linemen got hurt. A couple of the defensive linemen got hurt. And then it was just everything that went right the year before went wrong. They're somewhere in between. Like, I don't think they're one of the worst teams in the league. I don't think they're a playoff team. They're probably closer to the bottom of the middle, in my opinion. And if they can just get like Daniel Jones to play as close to the best version of himself, they can win some games that they're not supposed to, because people forget that guy's really athletic. He can run the ball, and that's a little bit difficult sometimes to game plan for when you have a quarterback that can move the ball with his legs like him. I think it's a good spot for them to start the season. We're both on the Giants here. as a home dog. Let's go. Daniel Jones. Eric and I are going to be buying the D Jones jerseys very soon. As let's get to the Panthers at the Saints. Eric, you sent me a text message the other day with a stat about Dennis Allen. I'll set you up for it. But the stat before it, Dennis Allen as a head coach is 24-46. And he's just not been very good. I think that Saints in the division this year are interesting because the division isn't strong. But this Saints team is never a team you like to be laying a big number with, laying something, especially for more than a field goal. This just feels like too many points for a Saints team that we have questions about. Carolina was bad last year. They should be better. I don't think their defense is going to be all that much better, but their offense should, and Bryce Young should look a lot more competent. I know a lot of people are on a lot of the sharper people are on the Panthers in here to start. And I just can't see how I would be on the Saints side laying it with some of these numbers. Give us some of the Dennis Allen stuff, Eric.
I got 4.5, and this is just strictly a trends bet for me. Last 20 years, Allen, 27, 41, and 2, 39.7% ATS, negative 22.9% ROI, third worst against the number among ever in that 20-year span, which is absolutely insane. Allen is a favorite, 33% against the number. Allen divisional favorite, 30% against the number. Allen divisional games in general is only 36% against the number. Divisional dogs week 1, 59%, 59.5% ATS. When the line is 4 or higher, that jumps up to 60.7% ATS. Road divisional dogs week 1, 56.8% ATS. Road dogs, 3.5 or higher, 57.7. All the trends just say to take the Panthers. This is over 4. They can still lose this game by a field goal, or that weird 24, 28 number, and I'm still covering the number. I think you want to get the 4.5 though. I'd still play the 4. Panthers, their offense is going to be a little bit more improved. Saints, I think I'm high on the Saints team this year.
Yeah.
But they're
it's a bad number.
Their offense just isn't good enough to be,
especially
isn't as high octane to be covering this big number.
No, it's just too much. And just to kind of piggyback the number you were giving, since 2010, in week 1, divisional underdogs are straight up are 40, 38, and 2. So we've had divisional underdogs actually win more than they've lost in week 1. So if you were just all of them, maybe sprinkle a little money line on some of the ones that you like this. There's a few situations during week 1 where you have divisional dogs and they've been more than a 50%. And as the underdogs, think about the betting lines, right? If you don't need to hit at even 50% when you're betting dogs plus money repeatedly. Eric, let's move to the Pats at the Bengals. We have life without Bill Belichick. The Bengals numbers moved down a little bit. I think it was at 9 earlier in the week. Now we're at Pats plus the 8, probably something to do with Chase. And we still haven't heard exactly from him yet. The Patriots, they had one of the lowest win totals in the season. It was only 4.5. And you just wonder, what will it look like for them without Belichick? They still were a very good defense last year, 5th in EPA allowed per play. It was just the offense. And it's a new offensive coordinator and an offensive line that's not great. Pieces don't really all fit. They want to just try to run the ball, Eric, and slow things down. For the Bengals, healthy Burrow for training camp. I mean, the Bengals right now are getting a lot of attention as a bounce back team that could be one of the best teams in the AFC. They do have some O-line injuries, though. I'm not laying this number with the Bengals. I don't know if I can get there with the Patriots. To me, this one just feels like a stay away early on. Talk to us about Patriots, Bengals, any plays or thoughts you have.
Last 20 years, teams laying 7 or more points or 40% ATS. Taylor laying 7 or more, 38%.
Yikes.
Bengals defense, that's a lot of points.
That is
a lot of points. We don't know what's going on with Jamar Chase.
You can be up by 14 the whole game and get backdoored.
We don't have no idea.
Yeah.
We have no idea what's going on with Chase. Is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Contracted situation. Even if he does play, what's going to happen? This is the first year where we've seen coaches from the Bengals leave, and now we're seeing people upset. Higgins upset. Chase upset. Hendricks on the defensive line upset.
Yep.
It's just
young guys get a little bit older, their team grows, and this is what happens, right? It's not like a few years ago when everyone's just kind of quiet, young dude doing your job.
Brissett, there's these veteran quarterbacks with big numbers I'm always intrigued by.
Yeah, he's been there. He's done it. He knows what to do.
They're always good for 2 to 3 drives
right? Couple drives a game. And that's all you need.
So, and this number's dipping. It was 9.5. It's been down to 7, up to 8. There's nothing to do in this game for me.
The value wise, I already lost like a point or point and a half. At over 7, at like in between 7.5 and above. If like I'm in a thing I sent you and about like I'm in a pool that you have to pick every game every week by the spread. At 7.5 or above, I would be on the Patriots. I just wouldn't go line up and make it one of my bets this weekend. I already lost a little value there. Like if I was forced to pick a game at that number, I would pick the Patriots at 7.5 or above. Because as you're saying, that's just a lot of points for week 1 early on until we really know these teams.
So there's no point in betting this game in my eyes.
No.
Literally
none. Wait. Let's get to the Titans at the Bears. So Mike Vrabel was a coach that you and I like to play quite a bit. He is gone, but all signs so far seem pretty positive for what we've heard about the new head coach in Tennessee. On the Bears side, they've been another one of these teams that's a little bit buzzy. Since the merger, there have been 27 number 1 overall picks. How many games do you think out of those 27 the number 1 overall picks have? So a number 1 overall pick started week 1 of the season. What do you think the record is for those number 1 overall picks? Out of 27, how many games do you think they've won?
Do you want? I have this straight up in the ATS right here.
There we go. Right, 4-22, and then 7-1, 7-20 against the spread. So just using that as a very basic, simple talking point. If you only had that stat, and then you saw that the Bears here are favored by more than a field goal, I don't know how I could play the Bears at anything over 3. Like, we know that this has not been a trend that's been positive because you get really excited about these number 1 picks. You probably want to give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt built into the line so they get an extra point or 2 probably of value. And they haven't proven anything yet. A lot of times they're not ready. A lot of times the opposing teams in the locker room, they are talking about that guy. They're circling that guy. They're talking about Caleb Williams. They want to go get a sack on Caleb Williams. They want to, make sure the rookie knows what it's like when you're in the NFL. I think Caleb will be good. I think you and I talked about it. I'm probably a little higher on him than you, but I'm not even like dead set he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. I just think he'll be a solid quarterback. But to me, at over 3 early on, I could absolutely see the Titans kind of trying to lean on the run, making a few big plays here and there with Levis, and a mistake or 2 from the Bears, and this just being a field goal game. I'm on the Titans side at anything over the 3.5. I think 4 is a really solid number for the Titans. Any plays for you? Talk about the Titans and the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams.
As soon as I got the 4.5, I
jumped. Yep.
You mentioned that trend about the rookie quarterbacks, their top pick overall. We got Snead in the back 4. Snead's going to be throwing stuff at Williams. He gets the team before. It's really intriguing what the Bears are going to be doing. The offensive coordinator runs a lot of 2 tight end sets. He's going to be running a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. I think that's going to take a little bit of time for him to get adjusted to. Titans, they have one of the better offensive line coaches in the league, a new scheme. I think they're going to be able to take away that Bears defensive pass rush, give Levis some time. I'm a little worried about Levis turning the ball over, but again, this is a number play. I'm playing the trend. Some of these trends are just trends that when it sticks out to you, you just have to play it because over time it is
Absolutely.
hit. And this is one of the trends. Historically speaking, quarterbacks for top overall picks don't do well. Titans.
It feels like, shouldn't this be more like 2? Like Titans, the Bears -2.
Titans defensive line, you got Simmons, you got Joseph Day up front. You got some big boys up front. I think they're going to struggle running the ball. You force Williams to throw. You got Snead back there. I don't know. To me, this is just a bet on the Titans.
Yeah, absolutely agree. This was one of those that I jumped in on, and maybe Caleb is really good and maybe they blow them out early on. But as far as week 1, too much for the Bears, too much respect for the Bears at over the field goal. This screamed to me it should have been a 2-point game or so. Definitely not more than that field goal, 2, 2.5, 3 even. Once we get up to 4, 4.5, like Erik got on that one, I think that's a really solid number. Erik, let's move next to the Cardinals at the Bills. I think the Cardinals in the preseason betting, their win total went up 2 full wins. So they became a real buzzy team that a lot of people were jumping in on. The Bills are favored by 6.5 in week 1 against the Cardinals. For the Bills, lots of new faces on the defense. Going to wonder who steps up for them at wide receiver. Rookie Coleman, Samuel, Diggs, and Gabe Davis are gone. Shakir's another one. And then they'll probably lean a lot on Kincaid, who had 73 receptions, and that was the 4th most ever by a rookie in NFL history. Laporta got a lot of the buzz last year. He's also a really good tight end. James Cook, kind of solid and under the radar too. What was nice is he had 44 receptions, which was the most by a Bills running back in the Josh Allen era. Overall, I think the Bills are kind of they've become a little underrated this year because of all the changes. This game is a weird one to me, though. I'm gonna stay away from it. It's in that 6.5-ish range. I think Arizona's gonna be feisty. Probably feels to me like the number that's a little too much for the Bills because we don't know how good they're going to be offensively or maybe how powerful they'll be offensively. So I can't really get a good grasp on this one, Erik. I sense this will probably be a survivor play for a lot of people. Maybe playing the Bills here at home, right?
Yeah, Bills and obviously the Bengals are going to be the 2 most chalkiest teasers. Reed, who was on my show earlier in the week, he absolutely loved the Cardinals. To me, and no offense to my boy Reed, they kind of feel like a public dog.
I agree. Yeah, they're getting a little too buzzy for me.
We don't really know what's going on. What's the next step with this Brady offense? We need to remember this really wasn't truly his offense. It was more of the Dorsey offense that he was just kind of calling the plays. This is going to be truly the Brady's offense. Backdoor covers always open up with more. Murray 64% against the number. Bills back 7. I'm a little bit concerned about. We've seen it before when you get these elite wide receivers, they come in and they just elevate the team, kind of like what Chase did with the Bengals. Is Harrison going to have that effect on the Cards? It's going to be interesting to see. I'm not going to lie. I really hope the Cards lose this game and they lose it decisively. And then I can get some value betting the Cards.
Moving forward. Yeah, because right now the value seems to kind of be gone from them because they've been a little bit of an off-season darling the last few weeks. We move to the Texans at the Colts. So keep in mind, this is another one of those games that falls in the divisional underdogs have won more games than they've lost since 2010. They're 2 games over 500. This would be 1, and you have a Colts team that's a 2.5-point dog at home. Texans have become one of the real strong kind of popular teams because they had such a nice year last year with a rookie head coach, with a rookie quarterback, with a bunch of young pieces. They have a good offensive coordinator, and they added some pieces for Stroud, who now has Collins and Dell and Diggs, and a really nice group of wide receivers there. You don't know what you're going to get from Diggs because he can be a malcontent. He can be someone that's very all about me. He wants the ball. He's a good player. So a lot of these really good, talented players, they know how good they are. They know what they can do. They want the ball. There's a reason why a lot of these guys get to the pro level because of their ego. Then at some point, you want to have that big ego. You want to have that massive confidence. But then at some point, you have to be, level-headed. and understand that everybody that you're playing with is top level talented. So what version of Diggs are we going to get? For the Colts, not a ton of roster changes. Anthony Richardson is what will make this team either an above average team or a below average team. He can run the ball. We don't know if he can throw the ball. I do think in this matchup, they're going to really try to lean on the run, though, with Taylor. And I'm curious, Eric, because I don't think those two guys played together at all last year, Richardson and Taylor, because Taylor was sitting out early. Then Richardson got hurt. And when Taylor came back, Richardson was done for the year. So those two with that 1-2 potent running combo, they could be pretty tough to defend early in the season, with two different guys that are really strong back there. I feel like you and I are both just kind of a little against Houston early on in the season. Do you think this number gets to 3, or do you think it stays here at 2.5?
I got 2.5. It went to 3 for a little bit. I'm fine with a 2.5. Divisional dogs, week 1, getting 2.5 or less are 69.6% against the number. When they're home, that jumps all the way up to 77.8% against the number. Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the game, and they're returning everyone. Their only weakness you can really make an argument more for is Fry's the right guard. But being between Kelly and Smith, they are able to band-aid what he's able to do. Week 18 last season, Colts rushed 37 times for 227 yards, averaging 6.1 yards per attempt. Is Hunter, who is their big acquisition on the defensive line, his PFF graded 93 best edge rusher against the run, going to improve the Texans' rush defense? I don't think so. Texans allowed the 6th most rushing yards, 2nd highest yards per game. They really did nothing to defend that. I really feel having Richardson back there is going to help with his RPO. I think Taylor's going to have some success. Everyone's really quick to sip the Kool-Aid on Stroud. We need to remember last season, there was only one quarterback worse than him on off-target throws. He was the 2nd worst quarterback in the league on off-target throws. The only one he was better than was Bryce Young. Texans led the league in early down rush attempts last season. When Stewart played for the Colts, they were elite defending in the run. I think they were contained Mixon. Houston's offensive line. Look, some question marks. Is Scruggs going to make the second-year jump at center? How will Green look first game back after missing the whole season? Team is a young, unproven line going against Payne, DeForest Buckner, and Stewart. I think they're going to struggle to protect him. I think the Texans' just inability to stop the run. I think that's the game right there in the divisional dog angle. I'm in.
Me too. I'm on the Colts at above 2. One thing I was just really impressed with last year too is after Richardson got hurt, this Colts coaching staff was good. They were good. They didn't have the most talented team all the time. Minshew, what is not a true number 1 quarterback. They put him in a spot to succeed. They ran the ball. They didn't make a lot of mistakes. I think the Colts are the play in here. Eric, let's continue rolling along as we only have a few more games left to discuss. We're up to the Raiders at the Chargers. The Chargers are a 3-point favorite in this game, and I'm going to play the Raiders in this one just because these are the two teams that I think in this division. I'm hoping the Raiders are just better this year than the Chargers overall. I think if you're going to look at one unit for these two teams and say that's the best unit of those teams, I would say it's the defensive front of the Raiders. I think their defensive line is really, really good. They had the interim head coach that they've now made the full-time head coach. They bring in Wilkins to add to 9 defensive returning starters. And I think the offensive coach, Getsy, he will have some weapons. They have a couple of really nice tight ends that they can use. The O-line might be a real weak spot. And that's a problem. But I'm hoping that they'll run the ball with Zamir White. They're not going to try to do too much. They obviously have some of the weapons that can make big plays and move the chains for them with the tight ends and with Adams. At 3 and above, I'm on the Raiders side. It's another one of those divisional dogs game here. And I don't think you get any home field advantage whatsoever with the Chargers. If you ever have been someone who lived in Southern California at all, the Raiders are the most popular team here because when all of the people that are now like my age, if you're someone that's in in your 30s or in your 40s, a lot of your life, there wasn't really a team in LA, but the Raiders were the team in Oakland that moved to Oakland. And so many of the fans that were fans from when they were in LA, they stayed fans of the Raiders when they were in Oakland. It was not the case for like the Chargers. They didn't have like an LA fan base. They had a fan base of fans from San Diego. So I think there won't be any home field advantage here. I think early on in the year, Harbaugh is going to probably take a little bit of time just to get his fingertips on this team, Erik. I wouldn't be shocked if in a year or two, this Chargers team looks like a Harbaugh team. They're more disciplined. They don't make as many mistakes. Sometimes it takes a little while to get your guys in there and to get rid of some of the bad habits that were developed from Staley. And Herbert's awesome. He's not on the injury report now, but he was a little banged up in the plantar fasciitis coming into this. And he hasn't been the biggest winner overall. I'm on the Raiders in week 1 plus the 3. Erik, you have any thoughts on this game?
I took the Raiders. I got 3.5. Actually, I gave us a one out on my show. You know, divisional dogs, 60% against the number. I know everyone's going to talk about how Harbaugh is 60% against the number, but when you look at it in these divisional games, he's only 44% against the number. And you hit the nail on the head with Zamir White, but dive a little deeper. Joseph Day was the Chargers' best run stopper. He's gone. He's with the Titans. So I think the Raiders, who have a good offensive line, are going to be able to move the ball.
And remember how bad the Chargers have been the last few years, just overall against the run. They got better last year, but 2 and 3 years back, they were a sieve. They were like the worst run-stopping team in the entire league. And then you get rid of one of those guys that help kind of Band-Aid some of the holes there, Erik. It feels just like a good spot for the Raiders to start the year.
It's a great spot. Minter is their DC. We don't know what to expect from him. How his defense is going to look. This Raiders defensive line is good.
They're good. They might be one of the top 2 to 3 in the whole league.
And we don't know how this offensive line of the Chargers is going to look. Pierce, small sample size, 80% against the number. Look, I look at it like this. I have a team that has the advantages in the trenches on both sides, and I'm getting plus money, and I'm getting over 3. To me, this is a no-brainer. I'm high on the Raiders this year.
Me too.
I'll hit the Raiders here plus the 3.5.
Yeah, we're both on the Raiders side. We have to see the Chargers wide receivers kind of figure things out there too. We don't exactly know who's going to be the go-to guy. You mentioned, and I started looking into it, I grabbed Josh Palmer in a few fantasy leagues, and I think he might be a fun guy in like DFS and even a prop play. Like he's the only real proven pass catcher for them that Herbert has a lot of experience with. Early on in the season, he may lean a lot on Palmer. So someone to keep an eye on, Erik. And that was a really good mention by you when we talked about the Chargers and we did the season preview. Let's go to the Broncos at the Seahawks. So we'll have in these next 2 games, back-to-back games, we'll have rookie quarterbacks making their career debut on the road. You'll have the Broncos playing in a pretty tough place in Seattle. So Seattle's a 6-point favorite in this game, over under 42 in here. The Broncos, I'm kind of curious for both the Broncos and for Russell Wilson. Like last year, that marriage with Peyton and Russell Wilson, it just wasn't good, Erik. And last year, it felt like the end of a relationship. Like, you know, when you're still hanging on and you know that the relationship is done, but you're like, you know what? I don't want to end it. They don't want to end it. But it was almost like they were sabotaging each other. Like Peyton was not putting Russell Wilson in a spot to succeed at all. You almost feel like Peyton is going to try to prove a point this year that Russell Wilson was the problem. So I think early on, he's really going to be on his game. Problem is, I just don't know. And I've never thought Peyton was all that incredible. And I will give Russell Wilson a little more of the benefit of the doubt because of that. I think he was kind of getting sabotaged by Peyton last year. So I am just curious to see how both of those guys look with a fresh start, because that just didn't seem to go well with them in Denver. This is going to be a tough spot. And because of the rookie quarterback on the road, I'm going to stay away. It does feel like it's probably a little much for Seattle to be laying 6 at like this early in the season. I don't know how good they are. What are your thoughts on this game and this number, Erik?
I'm sorry. I'm in my middle of my fantasy.
No worry.
Sorry.
I
just made my pick.
So did you get who you needed? Did you get who you needed?
I got who I needed. Rookie quarterback, 12, 13, and 2 ATS on the road. Ooh. But when you look at it, only 4 straight up wins. So they're covering these numbers, but they're not winning. The last rookie quarterback to actually win on the road, Sam Darnold. Knicks, he's a little bit more experienced, but look, he's going on the road, playing in Seattle, which is a tough-ass place to play in. McDowell, elite defense, but does Seattle have the players to install what he wants? I really don't know. I don't think so. We need to look at the key matchup is Riley Moss, which is the second DB. Surtain is going to be shadowing DK Metcalf. So what is Riley Moss? How is he going to be able to defend JSN or Lockett? Look, I made it far. I made it to week 12 or 13 whenever the Bengals beat the Jaguars. That's how far I made it in the circuit contest last year. And Seattle is my pick this year. I mean, look, Peyton, 49, 34, and 2.
I like that.
Yes, but when you take out Drew Brees, he drops down to 13 and 10. I think the Seattle offense with what they're bringing in is going to be really electric. I think people are kind of underestimating how explosive this offense truly is.
And they have the weapons at receiver, and what Geno isn't always the most consistent quarterback, but he has a big arm. He's good down the field, like making the big down the field throws. So that might be a strength for him offensively, just being able to take some more shots like that.
Yeah, I think Metcalf is going to eat, as crazy as it sounds. I think Metcalf is going to be in a very, very good position. So, yeah, I'm going to play him in Survivor, but that's it for me.
A few more games for us. Let's try to roll through these so we can get Erik to finish up his draft. Erik, Cowboys at the final game with the other rookie game. Washington at Tampa. Don't want to skip that one. So we have Daniels starting on the road here. Bucks are a 3-point favorite. This was a year for Tampa where a lot of things went really well for them. It's another situation where at the number, I would love to take Washington. It's just the rookie quarterback on the road for a lot of the same things we were saying. I don't exactly know what to expect from them. I think Tampa is going to regress a little bit, wins and losses this year off of some of the really positive bounces that they got last year. I like other guys. I've probably got 6 or 7 other spots on the board I like a little more than this. Again, though, if you're forcing me to make a pick in every game, I would lean Washington versus Tampa at the +3. Because I'm banking on that Tampa regression this year. And I think there might be a really high ceiling for the rookie quarterback here from Washington, but I'm not going to jump on him early on. Do you have a play in this game, positive or negative?
I want nothing to do with this game. We need to remember that Bill O'Brien is gone. So with Bill O'Brien gone, what is that going to do for the offensive line? How is the offensive line going to look with no Bill O'Brien? We need to remember. Oh no, dude, we're talking about the Commanders. My bad, dude. I was picking, dude. My fault.
No worries. Washington at +3 and Tampa.
46% ATS is a favorite. Is a favorite of 3 or more. 33% ATS. Commanders, they made some offensive line improvements. This is kind of a team that I'm intrigued by with the offensive line improvements that they have made. But back four, they're just so bad. Who is going to be able to guard Michael Evans, Chris Godwin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And especially that defensive line, which, let's face it, historically, Quinn has been very good at the defensive line. This defensive line has just been god-awful creating pressure. I don't know. I have my reservations about this back four, and that's kind of why I'm not all in on this team. You know what I mean? If this team had a better back four, I would definitely be interested in them.
This one will be a stay away for me. Washington, Tampa, numbers at 3. Cowboys at the Browns. Browns are a 2.5-point favorite in this one, over under 41. But Erik, you and I were talking before we started recording about CeeDee Lamb. And what were you telling me about Lamb?
We don't know what's going on. Is he playing? He is an exempt list. Like, I really don't know what that means. Like, can they get him in camp? Like, he's listed as out right now. I'm on ESPN. The league I'm drafting for is drafting an ESPN league. He's listed as out. So if the league doesn't approve him coming back, he's
missing week 1.
He's missing week 1. So,
and that's not a good team to have to play against, who has a very strong defense. Again, if you're just handicapping this game from a matchup standpoint, for the Browns, strong defense, strong defensive front. For the Cowboys, we have questions about their offensive line. They need to fill that spot on the O-line that they lost with Smith. So that right there feels like a bad matchup. We don't know how much Dallas is going to be able to run the ball there. I mean, I don't know if either of these two teams are going to move the ball all that well on each other week 1 with the good defenses that both of them have. I think this is going to be a really low scoring game. I'd imagine. I mean, the total is only 41.
But I mean, the thing with the Cowboys is they're switching defensive schemes. What is that going to look like? They're playing man and not more zone.
Zimmer instead of Quinn.
Yep. Bland and oh my God, I'm spacing Diggs. They live on making aggressive type plays, flying after the ball. Is that going to be like it here? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to be able to adjust being in a different type system? How is the Cowboys offensive line, which has a lot of holes, going to be able to protect against the Browns offensive line? Browns did lose one of the best offensive line coaches in the league with Bill going to his son's team. Browns do have a lot of injuries on the offensive line. Prescott, anytime Prescott's need to play for money, he's gone after it. I want nothing to do with this game.
Me too.
To me, if you're going to bet it, first half under, game under would be the way to go. We don't know what's going on with Watson and shoulder. You see all these videos, and he just looks awful.
I know, terrible. He never says the right thing. Like, he never talks like a guy that I'm believing in right now. Like, it just bad all around with them. I think they're going to – I actually am fading both of these teams this year overall.
See, that's the thing. Like, I have the Browns 40-1. I think if Watson is anything like 2020 Watson, this is one of the better teams.
And you're right. I just don't think he is. And you're right. Like, for that value, it is absolutely worth the chance that he could be. It's just in reading between the lines, hearing him talk, listening to the stuff, it just – the way the coaches talk about him, he just doesn't seem like a guy who's out there – trying to be the best version of himself anymore. So I'm staying away from this one. Yeah. Erik, our two teams, they play each other again. We got a playoff rematch here. The Rammies at the Lions. Lions 3.5-point favorite in this game. The thing about the Rams, already some injury issues. Higbee stuff, didn't love. I think some offensive line concerns here. We still have, they traded a key piece on the defense they thought was going to be a real big piece. So this one to me is another like stay away game at this number. I think it's real tricky. Like I would not be shocked if Detroit if your team is a real powerhouse this year, Erik. They seem like their defense is much improved. They seem like they could have a strong defensive front. I think the pieces fit really well for the Lions. So I'm staying away from this one at 3.5. Did you play this at all? The number at any side? Your team's supposed to be one of the better teams in the league this year. I wouldn't be shocked to see the Rams beat anyone. I just don't think the Rams have very much depth. So injuries could really hurt them this year. Let's talk about our two teams. This is Sunday Night Football, Rams and the Lions.
Goff. 7-0 week 1 ATS in his career.
Oh, wow.
Against the number as a favorite in his career. With the Lions as a favorite, 68% ATS. Indoors as a favorite, 73% ATS. My thing is the Rams, they have some questions. Switching defensive schemes. No more Morris. They're changing what historically they've done. No, Oh my God, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's gone. What is that team going to look like with no Aaron Donald?
Who steps up
there? Who's to step up? Rams, they have some questions on the offensive line. What is their offensive line going to look like? And Reader there, he's going to help against the run, which was the big thing the Lions really did struggle on. Lions made some improvements in the secondary. I wish they would have got the safety. They did lose Gardner Johnson. That's forcing Brian Branch to slide over. They did get some guys in the secondary, which is huge because, look, you got Kupp and you got Puka. Are there young DBs going to be good enough to hang with those guys? But if their defensive line is able to create pressure, that's kind of going to be a moot point. If I were to bet a favorite this
week,
it would be Lions. It would be Lions. Campbell for career 62% ATS, favorite 64% ATS, home favorite 60% ATS. This team is really, really good at covering in Dan Campbell. But in terms of what I'm looking for, I just got to pass. I can't do anything.
Yeah, pass for me as well. Eric, let's finish up Monday Night Football, the same game as it was last year, right? The 49ers and the Jets.
Was that the Monday night game?
It was the Jets on Monday night when he got hurt.
I thought it was Jets Bills.
That's what it was, because he got hurt on the Monday night game. It wasn't the 49ers, but he came out holding the flag. Wasn't it September? I think it was September 11th. He came out there with the flag, and then he didn't play much at all. But obviously for them, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers and a Jets team that made a lot of adjustments. They did fill in some of their weak spots. So they should be a more well-balanced team overall. 49ers, they seem like a lot of their issues in camp. Seems like they'll have most of their team together, but they've had a lot of kind of weird things like throughout the preseason so far. I just think for a week 1 game against the Jets team that they still has to show us on the offensive line, Aaron Rodgers that still has to show us he's healthy, this is a bad matchup for them. I don't want anything to do with this, Eric, because I feel like the Jets have been a very buzzy team this year. But I've always been a little against the 49ers. I've kind of always thought they're a little overvalued. I don't know what to do with this game at all. Like, I would not be shocked to see Aaron Rodgers look really rusty here and a bad defensive matchup for him with the 49ers. But again, I think the 49ers this year aren't going to be quite as good. So I'm a little bit cold on both of these teams. When that happens, I generally stay away. So it's now up to San Francisco -4. Do you have any thoughts on either that number? Did you lock something in earlier? Anything about this final game?
I took the Jets. I was able to get it at 4.5. Since 2020, Super Bowl team that loses 42% against the number. When the line is 3 or higher, that dips all the way down to 30%. We need to understand, and I've heard these players talk about it, that when you miss camp, that really affects everything. And Williams just signed. Ayuk just signed. Those guys have missed camp. They've missed time. What is that going to look like? Also, Rodgers' injury. He's coming back. We really don't know what to expect. Honestly, with how much the 49ers struggled against the run last year, it wouldn't surprise me.
Breece Hall game.
Leaned on Breece Hall a little bit more. I think the Jets are going to be able to create some pressure, make Purdy uncomfortable. And look, there's one guy, is a guy that I started talking to on X. Good guy. I like him a lot. Season ticket to the 49ers. He always listens to every single one of our things. And I hate to be mean to him because I know he's listening to us here. I really feel the 49ers window is shut.
Yeah, they feel like that really good regular season team, and you just wonder now because they had the last couple years with the Brock Purdy rookie contract to where they didn't have to spend a lot of money on him, and they were able to pay a lot of their top tier position players. But it just doesn't happen. Like, you start losing your depth. You start losing some of those key pieces. Yeah, I don't trust the Jets yet. I'm staying away from this one. Really staying away from this one, but maybe Hall is someone, if you're playing like the Monday night game and you're looking for a captain, he might be a strong play, as we're talking about. If we're looking at this game after and the Jets are competitive, I think it's probably because the run. I think it's probably because Breece Hall had a good game. If they win that game or if it's a close game, I think you have Breece Hall making some noise there. Erik, buddy, we told everyone we'll be following you at ETOF21. Everyone knows they're going to come hang out with us on Sunday. And when you come hang out with us on Sunday, we will be live. So come join us on the YouTube chats. Erik and I will put it on both of our YouTube channels live. So you want to come there, come and hang out with us, answer some, ask some questions, give us some of your best bets for the day. Erik, I'm going to let you get out of here, finish up your fantasy draft. Best of luck to you there. Thank you so much for all the hard work week one. And we'll be following you all over social media, and I'll talk to you on Sunday, my man.
Looking forward to it. I'll see you then, my man.
Thanks so much, everyone. Good luck. Week one, we'll have the Sunday show for you, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you're following along on my YouTube channel, also on Erik's at ETOF21 Sports. Good luck on your plays in week one.